Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome everybody. So that's it. We are into the final lecture of this course, and I hope we have been doing well throughout this course, both of us, and we have learned new things, and we have talked about so many tools and techniques in this very course. And remember, while we were starting this course, we had talked that most of the tools and techniques which will be discussed in this course, they are not actually been used in simple projects. So the level of effort is quite different as far as complex projects are concerned and simple projects are concerned. Then we had talked how simple projects are different from complex projects, and then we had talked in detail about the time, cost, and risk, and resources, and then procurements in detail. And you could have noticed by this time that what is quite different than the simple projects. So remember the quotation, very famous quotation, and that is the true sense of knowledge is to apply it. So that is said by the Confucius, and what we are doing over there, we are collecting the pieces of knowledge from so many different fields, and we are putting them together into one project management framework for complex projects. So this was all about this course, and so this very lecture is about contract types and bid evaluation. So then we will conclude our lecture number 32. Then we will talk on complex projects more, but before we start lecture number 32, let's have the summary of the previous lecture. So the other day we were talking about procurement process for works and procurement process for services, and eligibility. And remember, we have done few case studies on eligibility, and then we had talked about procurement plan preparation. What are the indicators we use if our procurement is doing well, and we had talked about misprocurement, and then some terms: fraudulent practices, collusive practices, coercive practices, and other things. And then we had talked about bid documents, outlines, so instructions to bidders, and then we had talked about bid data sheets and stuff like that. So now let's move toward lecture number 32. So what is contract? Okay, so it is a legal document between a buyer and a seller. It provides a mutual binding agreement that obligates the seller to provide the specified product, service, or result, and obligates a buyer to provide monetary or other valuable consideration. A procurement contract will include terms and conditions also. A contract can be an agreement, an understanding, a subcontract, or purchase order. So types of contracts are fixed price or lump sum contracts, and then there are cost reimbursable contracts, and then time and material contracts. So fixed price or lump sum contracts involve a fixed total price for a well-defined product or service. Okay, so one thing is fixed price, and there are types of fixed price contracts. So fixed price contracts are further divided into firm fixed price contracts, and in that you simply have very fixed thing. Okay, you have to complete the work in 100 rupees, and that's it. And then you are having fixed price incentive fee and fixed price reward fee contracts, and then you are having fixed priced and economic adjusted formula contracts. And then you have these purchase orders. So purchase order are also an example of fixed price. In that, purchase orders are, on which only one party signs, and it actually obligates the other to honor that. Okay. So there are cost reimbursable contracts. So these involve payment to the seller for direct or indirect cost plus profit. So we are going to have the types of cost reimbursable in upcoming slides. And then time and material contracts, hybrid of both fixed price and cost reimbursable, often used by the consultant. These are mostly open-ended contracts. And unit price contracts, these require the buyer to pay the seller a predetermined amount per unit of the service. So contract types are actually decided according to the risk mitigation strategy. Fixed price contracts are very, very risky for the seller. And then FPI, fixed price incentive fee, are lesser risky for seller, and then fixed price reward fee, and then fixed price cost adjustment. So these are fixed price contracts, and those fixed over there you can see with that thing seller's risk is dropping, and this is very less as far as CPCC. So CPCC is cost plus percentage of cost. Okay, so that is very, very risky for buyer or client. And then cost plus fixed fee, and cost plus incentive fee. So, and then time and material contracts are equally risky for both the parties. Okay. So this slide is, things are written very very brief slide. So I could have talked on that, and while you are having handouts with you. Okay. So first thing is FFP, firm fixed price contracts. So principal risk to be mitigated, none. The contractor assumes all cost risks. Okay, so the client, they do not have to mitigate the risk. Okay, and then fixed price, economic price adjustment. So unstable market price for labor or material over the life of the contract. So this needs to be tackled by the client. Fixed price incentive, firm target moderately uncertain contract labor or material requirements. A fixed price award fee, risk that the user will not be fully satisfied because of a judgmental acceptance criteria. And fixed price, prospective price redetermination is another type. Cost plus incentive fee, and cost plus annual fee, cost plus fixed fee, cost or cost share, and time and material. So these are so there is written over use when we use these, and then elements, and contractor is obligated to contract incentive and typical applications. So you can have like if we are talking about research and development of the prototype for a major system, then you will use cost plus incentive fee type of the contract. And if you are using kind of like a long-term contract for commercial supplies during a period of high inflation, so fixed price, economic price adjustment type contract will be used. So this is about contract types we do use. Okay. Now we were talking about bidding documents, and in bidding documents we had talked about two things, and that is instructions to bidders and one other thing, and that is bid data sheet, BDS and ITB. Now we will talk about evaluation and qualification criteria. So the purpose of evaluation and qualification criteria is to specify the criteria that the purchaser or the client or the employer will use to evaluate the bids and post qualify the lowest evaluated bidder. Okay, so that is the criteria given over there. And evaluation criteria is about scope, multiple contracts, technical criteria, economic criteria. So economic criteria is further divided into deviations from terms of payments, deviation from delivery and completion schedule, and O&M costs. So while you want to do life cycle cost, so operation and maintenance costs should also be included. And then spare parts. Remember, we were having this thing. There is life cycle cost analysis. Then we were having all these things: spare parts, operation and maintenance, and replacement cost. So these are spare parts are replacement cost. And then performance and productivity. So all these things are actually given in evaluation criteria. So on these broader things, we actually evaluate the bidders. And in the last but not the least, margin of preference. Okay, so then we do open the bids, and there are some typical problems we face. Bids received late. Okay. So if you are actually receiving the bids and the time specified is 11:30, and what if somebody enters in the room after 10 minutes, 11:40, and says my bid should be accepted? So that we bid, so that is a problem. Incomplete reading out of bid data after opening. Okay, somebody has provided incomplete reading out of bid data. So that is again a problem. And omission to read out discounts offered. Okay, so these are few typical problems for bid opening. And we are having this case study of bid opening for international competitive bidding. We are going to talk about international competitive bidding, but let's have this case study. A public opening of bids had been going on for 15 minutes when a bidder's rep enters the room and wishes to deliver his bid. What should the bid opening committee do? And you are into that committee. What will be your decision? And we have talked about that. So if remember bids received late, you should not. Now for that, what should you do? Public opening is going into take place, so you will reject it. So no, you won't accept that bid. During bid opening, the committee notices that the letter of bid has not been signed and that the bid security cannot be found. What should the bid opening committee do? Now, there is some criteria written in bid documents. Remember, we were having this instructions to bidder part of bidding documents. Okay, so over there, if you have specified that the letter of bid should have been signed and the bid security should be placed within the bids, and that is not done, so that means the bidder has created deviation which is a kind of material. Okay, so material deviation has occurred, then you will reject that. But if you have not specified anything about letter of bid and bid security in the bidding documents, then you will have to accept that. Okay, so you will make your decision based on your bidding documents, whatever you have specified in bidding documents. Okay, so if you have specified about the bid security and letter of bids, then okay, then you will be doing that stuff. Okay, so then during bid opening, firm's representative approaches the opening committee with another envelope saying that his company wishes to offer a discount. What should the bid opening committee do? अब हुआ ये है कि आप कर रहे हैं और एक representative आ गया है और एक और envelope लेके कि वो कंपनी जो है वो एक डिस्काउंट ऑफर करना चाह रही है. नाउ अगर उसने वो डिस्काउंट देना था तो वो अपनी फाइनेंशियल बिड के अंदर ही क्यों नहीं दे दिया उसने, वो बाद में क्यों लेके आ गया? नाउ दैट इज बैड. he or she is actually trying to influence. Okay, he is actually trying to influence your decision, so reject that bid as well. So these are few case studies on bid opening. Okay, and then Another very good case study is at the end of the opening of the bids, the chairman of the opening committee announces the lowest read out recorded bid price and invites attendees to make offers lower than the lowest recorded bid. What should attendees do? हुआ ये है कि बिड ओपन होगी, 6 बिड्स आ गई थी लाइक, और उन्होंने कहा, एक ने कहा 100, एक ने कहा 99, एक ने कहा 98, एक ने कहा 81 और 89 और 101. अब ये जो है लोग जिन्होंने अपनी बिड्स दी थी, अब ये लोएस्ट आ गया. अब कमेटी के चेयरमैन ने कहा कि अगर आप में से कोई ऐसे साहब हैं बाकी 5 में से जो 81 से भी कम अनाउंस कर दें अपनी बिड, कोई ऑफर करेंगे? क्या 89 वाला कह देगा कि 80 होना चाहिए या नहीं होना चाहिए? सो व्हाट शुड द अटेंडीज do? So they should decline the offer, and if they are not declining it and they are offering, then this should agitate on that. This is not fair. Whatever has been written, whatever has been opened, now that's it. There is no other argument or there is no other thing to consider. So that is the lowest, and he should be given this contract. Okay, the chairman of the bid opening committee is about to close the opening when an attendee realizes that one envelope in the cradle used for delivering of the bids to the opening venue has remained unopened. What should the bidder representative do? Okay, so what is going on over there is कि जब opening हो गई तो एक अटेंडी जो था उसने ये देखा कि एक एनवेलप वहाँ पड़ा हुआ है क्रेडल के अंदर जो कि अनओपन्ड है, वो नहीं खुला, वो खुलना चाहिए था. लाइक 6 एनवेलप आए थे लेकिन 5 खुले हैं. तो जो बिडर का रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है उसे क्या करना चाहिए है? उसको रेज करना चाहिए वो इशू कि जनाब ये जो एक पैकेट है ये हमारा है, ये नहीं खुला. और अगर मिसाल ये है कि वो उसका रिप्रेजेंटेटिव ही वहां मौजूद नहीं है, ठीक है, तो क्या फिर खोलना चाहिए? अब यहां ये आएगा कि यूजुअली ये कंडीशन होती है कि जो भी बिड सबमिट कराई जाएंगी उनका जो रेप है वो वहां मौजूद होगा बिड खोलते वक्त. यानी जब भी बिड खुलेगी तो कंसर्न कंपनी का रेप होना चाहिए, ये यूजुअली कंडीशन होती है. अगर ये कंडीशन बिड डॉक्यूमेंट्स के अंदर है तो फिर तो उसको अनओपन ही रहने दें और उसको नहीं खोलें और उसको रिजेक्ट नॉन रिस्पॉन्सिव डिक्लेयर कर दें. ओके, अनदर केस स्टडी इज द बिडिंग डॉक्यूमेंट required bidders to submit a certificate of country of origin along with the bid. The bidding documents further stated that at the time of bid opening, the bids would be briefly examined and those not accompanied by such an acceptable certificate would be rejected and returned to the bidder. Acceptable? Should you accept this or should you actually not accept that? Again, we have to talk about the eligibility criteria. Okay, so this certificate of country of origin जो है वो at times लाजमी होता है क्योंकि वो जिस डोनर ने आपको लोन दिया जिसके तहत आप काम करने जा रहे हैं ये उसकी रिक्वायरमेंट है कि जी ये कौन कौन से कंट्रीज हैं जिनके ऊपर आप ये पैसा खर्च नहीं कर सकते. सो फॉर दैट सर्टिफिकेशन ऑफ ओरिजिन जो है दैट शुड बी देयर. सो इन दैट केस yes, you have to accept that. So the answer is acceptable. Okay, now we had talked about bid opening, we had talked about bid documents, and then we had talked about bid evaluation, opening, and now let's talk about evaluation, the purpose of bid evaluation. So determination of the lowest evaluated and substantially responsive bid. So lowest evaluated, the other day we had talked about what does this mean. So lowest evaluated is different than lowest submitted. Okay, so so bid evaluation procedure sequence. So first is complete basic data sheet, prepare record of bid opening, prepare table of bid prices, examine bids for responsiveness. कोई ऐसी चीज़ तो नहीं है कि जो एलिजिबिलिटी के खिलाफ हो तो आप उसको उसी वक्त नॉन रिस्पॉन्सिव करार दे देंगे. आइडेंटिफाई बिड्स फॉर डिटेल्ड एवैल्यूएशन, अब उसके अंदर लाइक अगर 10 बिड्स थी तो 2 ने एलिजिबिलिटी क्राइटेरिया को फुलफिल नहीं किया था, तो 8 जो हैं वो फिर सिलेक्ट हो जाएंगी फर्दर एवेलुएशन के लिए। एवेलुएट बिड्स इन डिटेल, उसके बाद आप बिड्स को एवेलुएट करेंगे एंड एडजस्ट बिड प्राइसेस। फिर आप जो बिड की प्राइसेस, इसका मतलब क्या है एडजस्ट बिड प्राइसेस। अब हम आगे इसकी एक केस स्टडी करेंगे। एंड अप्लाई अदर एडजस्टमेंट्स, इसका क्या मतलब है, इसको हम ज़रा डिटेल से देखेंगे ये क्या इन दोनों का मतलब है। रिकमेंडेशन ऑफ अवार्ड, डिटरमिन लोएस्ट एवेलुएटेड सब्सटेंशियली रिस्पॉन्सिव बिड। उसके बाद चेक वेदर द बिडर whose bid has been established to be the lowest evaluated substantially responsive bid has the financial and technical capability. If this is established, recommend this bidder for the award of the contract and prepare bid evaluation report. Submit 3 copies of bid evaluation report to the bank or the donor at least 30 days prior to the expiry of bid validity. And typical problems are failure to submit bid security. So many bidders they fail to submit bid security partly or wholly. Late submission of bid security, 4 तारीख को करानी थी वो 5 को लेके आ जाते हैं। Insufficient amount of bid security, अब आपने करानी थी 1,70,200 रुपये, वो क्या करेंगे 1,70,000 रुपये का जो है वो बना लाएंगे, CDR बना लाएंगे या बिड सिक्योरिटी या जो भी चेक है वो पे ऑर्डर वो बना लाएंगे, तो 200 रुपये को वो कुछ समझेंगे ही नहीं। सो इन दैट केस दैट इज एन इशू। लैक ऑफ सपोर्टिंग डॉक्यूमेंट्स, और लिख देंगे ठीक है जी हमारे पास ये मशीन है, लेकिन उसका प्रूव करने का या कोई वो चीज़ साथ में प्रोवाइड नहीं करेंगे। मिसिंग आइटम्स और इनकम्प्लीट बिड्स, so that is again a problem. And expiration or and extension of bid validity, अब क्या होता है कि जो वो बिड वो भरते हैं 30 डेज की, और आपने बिड डॉक्यूमेंट में स्पेसिफाई किया हुआ है कि वो 90 डेज की होनी चाहिए, तो फिर आप उनको कहते हैं जी आप इसको एक्सटेंड करें, वो इसको 90 डेज का एक्सटेंड कर देते हैं, फिर बिड वैल्यूएशन में थोड़ा सा टाइम अगर लग जाएगा तो ये भी काम पड़ जाए, फिर आप उसे कहते हैं एक्सटेंड करें, तो ये सारे इश्यूज जो हैं वो होते हैं। उसके बाद कंडीशनल बिड्स का इशू ये होता है कि ऐसी बिड्स को एक्सेप्ट नहीं करना चाहिए, उसको रिजेक्ट कर देना चाहिए। कंडीशनल बिड्स आर नॉट अलाउड। सो गाइडिंग देन अवार्ड ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट गाइडिंग प्रिंसिपल्स, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल सबसे पहले तो ये देखें कि जो इनको आप अवार्ड कर रहे हैं आप कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, क्या वो क्वालिफाइड हैं। सो यू नीड टू award the contract only to the qualified bidders. Award of contract always to the bidders with the lowest evaluated and substantially responsive bidder. I have told you if your estimate was 100 rupees and then you've gone for single stage 2 envelope method, and 70% marks are technical and 30% are फाइनेंशियल। अब होता क्या है कि एक साहब हैं उन्होंने 70 में से ले लिए 56, दूसरे साहब ने ले लिए 68 और तीसरे साहब ने लिए 62। अब इन्होंने जो फाइनेंशियल वाले हैं, जो पहले वाले साहब हैं, उन्होंने कहा यही काम मैं 100 रुपये में कर देता हूँ, दूसरे ने ये कहा जो 68 वालों ने कहा ये 200 रुपये में कर देता हूँ, और इन्होंने कहा मैं 150 रुपीज़ में कर देता हूँ। अब 30% फाइनेंशियल है। अब 30% कैसे निकालेंगे कि जो सबसे लोएस्ट होगा उसको पूरे नंबर दे देंगे, सो इसके 30 नंबर आ जाएंगे, और ये 200 है ये डबल है इससे, तो इसके हाफ हो जाएगा 30 में से 15, और अगर ये 150 है तो ये 2/3 जो है वो 3/4 इसका आ जाएगा। सो यू विल मल्टीप्लाई you will be multiplying this 30 will be 33 and then divided by 4 and 90 by 4 like 15 and 7.5 22 0.5। अब ये थी उनकी सबमिटेड, ये सबमिटेड अमाउंट्स थी। अगर इस हिसाब से देखा जाए तो आपको तो 100 वाले को करना चाहिए, लेकिन अब हम थोड़ा सा कलेक्शन करते हैं इसकी और इसको सम करते हैं। 56 प्लस 30 इज 86, 15 प्लस 68 so that is third, like okay, so this is 2, okay, so that is 82 or 68 plus 15 is 3, 7, 8, 83, और अगर आप इसको और इसको सम करें तो ये आ जाएगा आपका 84.5। इन दैट केस आप देखें कि आपका बेशक इससे सबसे कम जमा करवाया था, इसे 100 रुपये में करवाया था, लेकिन इसके टेक्निकल में नंबर 52 थे। अब टेक्निकल में थोड़े नंबर होने की वजह से जब आपने इन दोनों को सम किया तो 82 बने, और जो सबसे ज़्यादा बने हैं वो इसके बने हैं जिसके आपके 84.5 है। अब आप जो सबसे ज़्यादा नंबर वाला है वो ये है 84.5। सो इसको आप कहेंगे कि दिस इज लोएस्ट अवैल्यूएटेड बिडर, क्योंकि इस पे आपने टेक्निकल भी ले लिया, फाइनेंशियल भी ले लिया, और दोनों को आपने सम करके देख लिया कि आपका ये लोएस्ट अवैल्यूएटेड है, नॉट दिस वन जिसका कम पैसे थे। सो दैट विल बी द लोएस्ट। सो यू शुड बी हैविंग वेरी क्लियर आइडिया व्हाट इज लोएस्ट सबमिटेड बिड एंड व्हाट इज लोएस्ट अवैल्यूएटेड बिड, ओके। और सब्सटेंशियली रिस्पॉन्सिव बिड का मतलब क्या है कि उसने जो एलिजिबिलिटी क्राइटेरियाज हैं वो सारे मीट कर रहा है, जो आपकी प्री रेक्विजिट है लाइक 1, 2, 3, 4 वो सारे मीट कर रहा है, ठीक है। अगर आपने कहा था जी बिड्स जो है सिर्फ पाकिस्तानी नेशनल कर सकते हैं और एक साहब आ गए हैं जो कि पाकिस्तानी नहीं है, वो अरब हैं, यू विल सिंपली रिजेक्ट दैट बिड, ओके। और यू विल स्टेट दिस, यू विल वोंट रिजेक्ट, you will state that this is non-responsive bid, because rejection of the bid is kind of when you do not open it, but then you state this it is not responsive bid. And then there is a second requirement that is okay, 3, 4 is okay, but then this very first condition was not okay, so that's why you have set. So these two things should be having in your, you should be having these things in your mind. So these are guiding principles for award of the contract. So lowest evaluated and substantially responsive bid. Okay, so if your project is donor assisted project, then you cannot simply award the letter of contract to the contractor which is lowest evaluated and substantially responsive. Then you will submit your documents to the donor and the donor will approve as far as prior review is concerned, and send notice of award to bidder after donor agency approval in case of prior approval. So you will if you've got the approval of donor, then you can send notice of award to the bidder. And then after the letter of award has been sent, then bidder is requested to sign contract within specified time. So usually 7 to 15 days टाइम होता है जिसके अंदर कहा जाता है कि जी आप आ जाएं और एक अपने साथ स्टैम्प पेपर ले आएं जिस इतनी अमाउंट का, लाइक 500 का और 1000 का, और उसके ऊपर आपका कॉन्ट्रैक्ट जो है वो करके टाइप कर दिया जाएगा और उसके ऊपर इसको सिग्नेचर करा लिए जाएंगे. Request bidder to provide performance security within specified period. So this is very much required. अगर आपने उसको मोबिलाइजेशन एडवांस देना है तो वो कोई बैंक गारंटी देगा, उसके अगेंस्ट देंगे. इस तरह परफॉर्मेंस सिक्योरिटी ली जाती हैं, परफॉर्मेंस बॉन्ड्स लिए जाते हैं. सो ये सारी रिक्वायरमेंट्स इसलिए होती हैं ताकि आप की जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है जिसको भी काम दे और वो परफॉर्म अकॉर्डिंगली कर सके. ये ना हो कि आप उसको काम दे दें और उसके बाद फंसे और वो काम ही ना कर सके. इफ बिडर डज नॉट कंप्लाई, रिजेक्ट बिड, सेलेक्ट नेक्स्ट लोएस्ट बिड आफ्टर डोनर एजेंसी अप्रूवल इन केस ऑफ प्रायर रिव्यू. और अगर इस तरह नहीं होता तो फिर क्या करेंगे, ये नहीं है कि आप सारा ही रिजेक्ट कर दें. पूरा का पूरा प्रोक्योरमेंट प्रोसेस आपने ऑब्वियसली सबसे पहले उसकी अप्रूवल ली थी, महीना लगा था, उसके बाद फिर आपने अखबार में दिया था, 15 दिन का रिस्पॉन्स टाइम दिया था, 20-25 दिन आपने उसके वैल्यूएशन में लगाए और फिर आपने डोनर की अप्रूवल ली, तो ये सारे प्रोसेस के अंदर 3 महीने लग गए। अब 3 महीने के बाद सिंपल अगर वो एक्सेप्ट नहीं करता कॉन्ट्रैक्टर आपकी ऑफर को, तो आप क्या करेंगे, उसकी जो बिड गारंटी आई हुई है या बिड उसने कॉल डिपॉजिट जमा करवाया, आप वो फोरफिट कर लेंगे। बट then you do not actually go and reject all the procurement process, but you will have the offer of the second lowest value. In that case अगर ये साहब नहीं मानते, फिर आप इनको दे देंगे, इनको फिर आप ऑफर कर देंगे, यही काम। Okay, so there are few problems you face while you are awarding the contract, and some typical problems are delay in notification of award. So there are so many reasons for that. You have sent it for the approval of the donor or for your high forum, and they are taking time. In meantime, the bid validity has been expired, so you are writing to the contractor or supplier to extend the bid validity, and it is actually taking some time, and then contractor is actually making a decision. He has some notices, he has noticed something, well, that project is not going to be very fruitful now, and then he must be having some other second thought, so that may actually cause some delay in notification of award. And then negotiation with bidders before determining lowest responsive bid, so that is a practice that, but so these are typical problem for the award of contract, and that may actually that is very bad thing. Contract negotiations with lowest evaluated bidder. Okay, what is the offer you can make? Okay, our estimate was 100, but now you are lowest, but you are actually doing this job for 120 rupees, and we don't have this much amount. We are having like 115, and if you are not going to get to 115, then we have to take another approval. But in that case, the whole process is actually been jeopardized. In the concept should be very clear. If you are having this estimate and you've got lowest evaluated of 120, we have to go with 120, not a negotiation. So PPRA rules actually they do not permit negotiations as far as these things are concerned. Okay. So this is not about if they are actually denying every kind of negotiations, but this is a very good example of the negotiation they actually bar. Okay, so let's have a very good practical example and exercise of water treatment plant. Bid prices. 3 bidders were bids were received for the supply, delivery, and installation of water treatment plant. Arithmetically corrected bids were bidder A, bidder B, bidder C. So bidder A has submitted bid in one component in dollars, one in another currency, yuan, pound, and another currency. Bidder B has submitted his bid in yuan, and bidder C wholly in US dollars. So the bidding document specified that the exchange rates on the day of bid opening will be used for the purpose of converting the various bid currencies into single currency for bid comparison. The following rates were published on the day of bid opening. So these are the rates. $1 is equal to 125 yen, and RM 2.5, and pounds 0.6. So these will be used. Now what you have to do is you have to tell which one is the lowest one. Okay, so for that you will convert every price into one currency, okay, by using these relationship. So let's say we are converting the whole thing in dollars, so we will convert this amount in dollars, and for that we will have to divide this thing divided by 125. So then we will get the answer in dollars, and similarly we will have to divide this thing to 125, and this thing by 2.5, and this thing by 0.6. So that is okay because that is in dollars. And then we will add these three into this. So we will have a total bid for bidder A. So as far as bid price is concerned, we have converted bidder A's bid is 1.269512. So 1,269,512.02 dollars, and bidder B is 1,281,543 dollars, and bidder C is 1,245,900 dollars. So from that we can see bidder C is the one who is the lowest one. Okay. But then scope we have checked. Bidder A omitted to quote for mandatory spare parts. So those were mandatory spare parts. Price quoted for these spare parts by other bidders were bidder B 68,000 and bidder C 61,000. So जो A है उसने एक बड़ा ही लाजमी जो स्पेयर पार्ट देना था वो नहीं दे रहा और उसको वो ओमिट कर रहा. तो अब हम कैसे इसका फैसला करेंगे कि आपने बिडर बी ने इतने दिया है, बिडर सी ने इतना दिया है. तो आप ये करेंगे जो ज्यादा वाला होगा वो ले लें और वो ऐड कर दें बिडर ए की बिड में. बिडर ई इसी तरह बिडर बी omitted to quote a price for the certain filter. Price quoted for this filter by the other bidders for bidder A $13,100 or bidder C $13,600, and then bidder B also included in its bid price optional spare part worth $6,963. The bidding document specified not to include the cost for these optional spare parts in the bid price. So ये क्या करेंगे, ये नहीं करना चाहिए था उसको, तो ये माइनस हो जाएगा और इस पे जो ज्यादा वाला है ये वाला ये ऐड हो जाएगा बिड बी की और ये वाली माइनस हो जाएगा और बिड ए में ये वाला आपका ऐड हो जाएगा. सो हेंस मिसिंग स्पेयर पार्ट्स आर 68,000 यहाँ आ गया जो मिसिंग स्पेयर पार्ट्स है ए का. इसी तरह मिसिंग फिल्टर जो बी ने देना था वो जो 13,600 था, अगर आप देखें ये वाला ये जो है उसने मिस किया था ओवर देयर. और उसके बाद स्पेयर पार्ट जो एक्सेसिव था ये अब एडिशनल है तो इसको माइनस कर दें. अब आप इसका एडजस्टेड फॉर स्कोप, सो जो मैंने कहा था ना एडजस्टमेंट का हम आगे देखेंगे अगर आप वापस जाएं सीक्वेंस. ओके ओवर देयर यस, सो दैट इज एडजस्ट bid price. What we are doing over there is we are adjusting the bid prices and apply other adjustments, right? So bid prices are adjusted and apply other adjustments. So these are a few things we are actually doing those, and now we will be moving with our case study. So we have done converted all these we have in one currency, and then we have done the scope thing, and now this is adjustment for scope. So bid price is now $1,276,312.02 for A, $1,288,180 for B, and $1.2459 million for C. So still over there 245 is, this is again lowest. And then efficiency. The bidding document specified that the operation and maintenance cost will be evaluated on the basis of the efficiency of the plant over a 15-year period at present value of the cost. So bidder B offered the plant with the highest efficiency and lowest operation and maintenance cost. And the value of additional cost for the plant offered by bidder A is 24,899. The value of additional cost for the plant offered by bidder C is 12,450. So bidder B is okay. Bidder A we need to add this, and bidder C we need to add this. So additional operating cost 15 years for A is this much, and for C this much. Now, terms of payments. So bidding document specified the following terms of payment: 70% against shipment, 30% after acceptance, against submission of 10% bank guarantee for the warranty period. So if the plant warranty period is 1 year, so then you will hold that 10% for 1. So terms of payments, so bidding document specified the following terms of payment: 70% against shipment, 30% after acceptance, against submission of 10% bank guarantee for the warranty period. Bidders were allowed to propose alternative terms. So commercial prevailing interest rate at the time of evaluation of bids are 6% per annum. The period between the date of shipment and acceptance of equipment was estimated to be 90 days. Bidder A proposed 70% against shipment, जो कि शुरू में जो इनिशियल डॉक्यूमेंट्स में था वो 70% था. इन्होंने क्या किया, 75%, यानी 5% ये ज्यादा मांग रहे. 25% आफ्टर एक्सेप्टेंस विद 10% बैंक गारंटी. तो ये जो 5% है ये बेसिकली वो 90 दिन के लिए ज्यादा मांग रहे हैं. Bidder B proposed 100% against shipment with 25% bank guarantee to be reduced to 10%. अब ये क्या कर रहे हैं कि 25% की बैंक गारंटी दे रहे हैं, 100% मांग रहे हैं, और वो जो 25% की बैंक गारंटी है वो 10% के रिड्यूस हो जाएगी जब वो एक्सेप्ट हो जाएगा. सो देन कमर्शियल टर्म्स, so this will be the benefit is actually adding, so $957.23 will be the commercial rate. There are calculations being done, and then so that was the initial cost 1276312, and then 5% of that thing, because 5% is more, and then 6% is the interest rate, and 312 that is for for 3 by 12 is the time for which we have to actually give them that that money. Okay, so similarly 1288180 179.90 and then multiplied by 30% and 6% and 3 by 12. So you are having that. So non-conformities. The bidding document specified a ceiling for liquidity damages of 10% of the contract price. Bidder C offered a maximum limit of 5% of the contract price. So the 5% of the contract price, so 62,295 should be uploaded into bidder C's bid. So who is the lowest evaluated bidder? So let's calculate, and we are having this table. Okay, so we will add all these things, and then so bidder A is having this 1,302,168.26, and bidder B is having 1,293,976.81 and 1,320,645. So basing on this, you can clearly see that this one is the lowest. So not the C, which has been the lowest up to this stage and even up to this stage, but then actual the lowest one is this, the B. So the contract should be awarded to the bidder B. So this is a very good example of how we actually evaluate bids, right? So let's move towards another thing, and that is international competitive bidding, a case study. So international competitive bidding is default procurement method for so many donors, And threshold contract values, they specify like for goods like $500,000 to $1 million, and for works from ranging from $1 million to $10 million. So that is the threshold contract values for that ICB's default procurement method. And value for money for borrower, a wide range of choices in bid selection from among competing suppliers and contractors. And for bringing fairness, transparency, and better resources for prospective bidders from eligible source countries, adequate, fair, and equal opportunities. And this is the procurement flow chart for international competitive bidding. So first thing is advertising. So first we take the approval from the competent forum, and then we, after having that approval available with us, we get it published in newspaper, and it should be specified that this procurement is international or national. So for national, we use NCB, National Competitive Bidding, and then for international competitive bidding, we use ICB. And then we carry out the pre-qualification. And then bidding documents are prepared, ITBs, instructions to bidders, and then bid data sheets and conditions of contract and stuff like that. Then bid opening is carried out, and bid evaluation, we have done that, and award of the contract. So what is the purpose of international competitive bidding advertisement? So advertisement, it is a letter informing potential bidders about requirements and inviting interested bidders to bid. And particulars are who is the employer of that work. So what is the name of the project? What type of the project it is? What are the works to be carried out, and description of the works? And name of purchasers and purchasing unit, mailing address of office for inquiry and issuance of bid documents, price of bid document, date, time, and place of bid opening, amount or percentage of bid security. So usually for two envelope system, single stage two envelope, we are using amount, and for single stage one envelope, we use percentage. But we can use amount for single stage single envelope, but we cannot use percentage for two stage. Because why is that? Because bid security is part of technical proposal. So if somebody has specified like 2% bid security, and that is like 100,000, and other is putting up like 180. So now you have a pretty good idea what are their financial bids, right? So then technical bids can be manipulated. So that is why percentage for two envelope single stage is not a good idea. Then we specify the amount. And advised on domestic preference. And remember, this is very important thing. Invitation for bid does not form part of bidding documents. So that is not, we do not call it part of. So discussion question is, imagine employer post an IFB invitation for bid, and 50 potential bidders purchase the bid document, but only 3 bidders submit bids. What would conclude from this occurrence? Okay, so that thing is very clear. Yes, they had purchased documents, and obviously after paying some fee, spending some time, and doing some networking. So why 12 people they were refused to submit the bids? The answer is very straightforward, because the technical specifications are very high, so bidding documents are very confusing, or they think that there is a risk that has totally been transferred to the purchaser, and all these things are actually making this whole practice and putting a big question mark on that. So if they are purchasing documents and only 3 bidders are submitting bids, then we can conclude from this occurrence that whether the specifications are very high, or there were another thing may even be there, okay, and that is, and the market is very, very low in education, you know, so they just want to have every work they see and they just go for that, okay. So, but after reading the document, they found, okay, the client is very clear, the document is very good, and there is no chance if I just can go and have the work, and then I will make a trick of the client. But they have decided, okay, the client is very, very clear about the work. So there may be 2 scenarios, okay. एक scenario में ये है कि client बड़ा पढ़ा लिखा है, उसने इतना अच्छा document बनाया है कि आपको पता चल गया कि मैं तो ये काम कर ही नहीं सकता. दूसरा ये हो सकता है कि आपने इतना मुश्किल बना दिया उस काम को कि मैं उस काम को ले ही नहीं सकता. तो एंट्रेंट जो हम बात कर रहे थे कि न्यू एंट्रेंट्स के लिए कारोबार करना मुश्किल हो जाता है, तो ये सिचुएशन उस तरह की हो सकती है. तो इसके ऊपर हम काफ़ी सारी बात कर सकते हैं, इसको जिस पर्सपेक्टिव से देखें इसके काफ़ी सारे आंसर्स हो सकते हैं. लेकिन इन दैट केस जिस तरह की ये सिचुएशन हमें नज़र आ रही है, तो हम ये कहेंगे कि वो कंपटीशन जो है वो ज़्यादा वहाँ नहीं होगा. सो दैट इज़ काइंड ऑफ. उसके बाद प्रोसीजर्स हैं इसके. इन केस ऑफ देयर विल बी 2 डिफरेंट प्रोसीजर्स फॉर प्री क्वालिफिकेशन एंड पोस्ट क्वालिफिकेशन. एंड इन केस ऑफ प्री क्वालिफिकेशन, इन्विटेशन फॉर बिड्स ओनली sent to pre-qualified bidders. Again, this is in the context of context of people who are working with donor projects or private. For government sector, usually they do have to get it printed again. And then in case of post qualification, advertisement in local English language newspaper of national circulation or internationally known and freely accessible websites in English. So this, we are talking about international competitive bidding, right? So if we are having a pool of contractors available with us, and one is from China, one is from Afghanistan, one is from like USA, so, and one is from Europe or stuff like that, then we are having 10 contractors. So we will write to them, okay, please submit your. So this may be one case, but for that we have already pre-qualified list of people. And for post-qualification, so we do not have. For that we will actually give in English newspaper, so because English is international language, and publication on like one of the good example is one of the bank, ADB, or World Bank .org and stuff like that. And what is the purpose of pre-qualification? And to ensure that bids are submitted only by the firms that have necessary qualification in terms of eligibility, experience, financial capacity, pending litigation to undertake the work for which bids are to be invited. So this has been already discussed. So it protects employer from unqualified bids, simplifies and expedites bid evaluation, permits more objective assessment of bidder qualifications, expand competition because qualified players will be more likely to bid, permits employers to make necessary adjustment in the procurement process if insufficient number of applications are received, helps expose potential conflicts of interest of an applicant with other parties in the pre-qualification process, and protects unqualified firms from cost of bidding, and assures bids will not be rejected on qualification grounds. So these are benefits for the employer, and the remaining are benefits for the bidders. So these are about benefits. And now increase procurement lead time, increase the risk of collusion because list of pre-qualified firms has to be published, and Clients are required to review all pre-qualification applications, whereas under post-qualification qualification check need only be conducted for the lowest available bidder, and these are disadvantages of pre-qualification. And pre-qualification process usually used for large complex works contracts. Turnkey turnkey are you design and then you build. So you are designing and building the same thing. Contracts for fabrication of custom design plants and equipment, specialized service contracts, and complex IT contracts. So these are a few. And now let's have a case study. For the construction of a dam, the client invited applications for pre-qualification. The invitation specified that in order to promote the local construction industry, applicants must be locally registered, have majority ownership by locals, and have a joint venture with a local firm. Are these conditions acceptable? So this is construction of a dam, and the client, and this is international competitive bidding. They want to promote the local construction industry. So he should be locally registered. What do you mean by locally registered? Because you are not the the national of that country. So what would be then point of calling bids for international competitive bidding? I mean, if they want to promote the local construction industries, they should not have adopted international competitive bidding. They should have gone for national competitive bidding. So have majority ownership by locals or have joint venture with the locals. So these are the conditions which are actually hampering the total concept of international competitive bidding. So these conditions are not acceptable. Okay, so then we have reached to the point where we had talked about the documents and evaluation and criterion and case studies, and now let's talk about the contract terms and condition. So there are two parts as far as civil engineering projects are concerned. One is called general conditions of contract, GCC, and particular conditions of contract, PCC, or special conditions of contract, SCC. So we will talk about general conditions of contract. And the purpose is to define general procedures for proper contract management through clear definitions of rights and obligations of contracting parties. And contents are standard clauses applicable to most contracts designed to remain unchanged and to be used without modifying their text. And sources evolved from accumulated experience, best practices, and particular conditions of contract. So PCC purpose is define provisions that are specific to a particular bidding process in order to supplement the information or requirements of Section 7 general conditions of contract. And contents are clauses which are numbered with same numbers as the corresponding clause of Section 8, and that is general conditions of contract. Okay, so इसकी एक ऐसी मिसाल समझें कि जिस तरह एक क्लॉज है उसे हम कहते हैं क्लेम, या हम कहते हैं क्लॉज 8 है, क्लॉज 8 है जनरल कंडीशन ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट की. The contractor has to provide work schedule before starting the work. So a work schedule has to be provided by the contractor according to this clause. Okay, for PCC, so this is GCC clause, general conditions of contract. So what you do is, and that is clause 8. So you in PCC you will write clause 8, and the work schedule is to be submitted 15 days prior to start the work. Now this will lead precedence over there. So अब आपने 15 दिन का कर दिया, या आप कहेंगे क्लास 8 GCC के बजाय उधर जाके आप काट दें उसको या डिलीट कर दें, आप इधर लिखेंगे डिलीटेड, सिंपल. सो दैट विल रीड लाइक कि PCC के अंदर आपने स्पेसिफाई कर दिया कि क्लास 8 ऑफ GCC हैज बीन डिलीटेड. सो दिस इज द कंसेप्ट ऑफ दिस thing. Okay, so we have reached to the summary of this lecture. So in that last session, we had talked about contract types, and we had talked about bid evaluation, and we had talked about bidding documents, and we had talked about the advertisement and pre-qualification, and we had done a case study on bid evaluation, and then we had talked about the conditions of the contract. So that is it. That is all from my side as far as this course is concerned. So I hope we had very good sessions with us, and that will make a good part of your body of knowledge. So whatever we had talked was quite practical as far as project management is concerned, and I hope you will try to apply that. So before we have quoted this quotation of Confucius, that the true essence of knowledge is to apply it. And for today's lecture, we have this end note is being good is easy, what is difficult is being just. So I hope that is kind of very good saying, and I say thank you, I say good luck, and Allah Hafiz.